another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I am your host, Roy Garton, where we talk all things Trumpism and the Trump administration. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our breaking news that is already has started since we've started this podcast. And I'm talking like minutes, so we need to go ahead and get right into it. And that is that U.S. President Donald Trump is now sending his envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner to Pakistan, and they've already done that. And but here's the catcher. Now, the Iranian delegation did arrive in Pakistan just a couple of days ago, and they were supposed to be there to continue talks with the Pakistani officials, as well as the United States delegation that I just mentioned, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. But here's the catch. They have said that just in early this morning that they have no plans to meet with the U.S. delegation. And I find that kind of interesting to the fact as that they were willing to talk to the Pakistani delegation, but they don't want to talk to the U.S. delegation. And in fact, they've already announced that they're going to resume their commercial air flights from Tehran. So, very, very interesting breaking news that has been going on, that the delegation does not want to meet with the U.S. delegation. Now, that obviously could change, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, with the resumption of their commercial air flights from Tehran, it's kind of like it's business as usual with Iran, although they continue to mine the Strait of Hormuz. And, as I bring up this next slide, as you can see that the oil is not getting through, even with the U.S. blockades. Now, we are exchanging tit-for-tat gunfire with the Iranian speedboats that are out there, planting those mines and creating havoc with the incoming ships. They are continuing to collect tolls from those incoming ships. But the fact of the matter is even with the U.S. firing on some boats, they actually fired on one boat that was carrying medical supplies. They said that they fired upon one boat that was carrying Chinese military weapons, when in fact China said that they weren't going to be supplying any weapons to the Iranian military. So we don't know what's going to be happening there. But again, the delegation was received by Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Darrar and Chief of Army Staff Field Marshal Asim Munir and other senior officials upon arrival. In a statement, it was said during the visit that they were expecting to meet with just the Pakistani and senior leadership to discuss the latest regional developments and ongoing efforts to promote regional peace and stability. However, as you're well aware of, with all this conflict going on, and we do have extended ceasefire with Iran, and Israel has that extended ceasefire going on with their counterpart in Lebanon, but we are still at a stalemate. And so we're really not getting anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. It's still same old. Gas prices have dropped a few pennies in some areas, but not a lot. And so here we go, on and on and on. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance said he would be on standby for travel, the White House said. Trump said this past Thursday that Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extended ceasefire, which we already know about, and has been all by at least 3 more weeks. After talks at the White House, the meeting was in the second highest level of negotiation between the two countries since last week. The initial 10-day ceasefire, which took effect last Friday, has been due to expire this Monday. The Trump administration is placing economic sanctions on a major Chinese-based oil refinery and roughly 40 shipping companies and tankers involved in transporting Iranian oil. The move, announced this past Friday, articulates the administration's threat to impose secondary sanctions on entities that do business with Iran in an effort to cut off Iran's key source of revenue, its oil exports. And the problem that we're all having here is this. jet fuel is becoming a rarity. With the Strait of Hormuz closed, it doesn't affect the U.S. so much, even though 20% of the world's export in oil comes through there. What it does affect is the European countries. And as we are well aware of, Donald Trump has basically stated that this war could perhaps continue for much longer periods. He even mentioned some of the things like, perhaps Vietnam, that, look at that. And this war is only 3 or 4 weeks old. And just so I'm not making that stuff up, watch this little clip where Donald Trump has talked about how long this war possibly could go on.
On the war with Iran, how long are you willing to wait until you get a unified response?
Don't rush me, Jeff. Guys like you want to say, so we were in Vietnam for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We're in for all the, I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And their military is totally defeated.
So, even though Donald Trump keeps putting on little comments on his Truth Social that, hey, we're getting close to near this thing. We're getting close to the end of this conflict. It's just a couple more weeks, maybe 2 more weeks, this thing will be over. And, he keeps saying that we got peace talks going on, where the Iranian officials keep saying, we have no intentions to talking to you. We'll send a delegation, but we just want to talk to the Pakistanians. So we don't want to talk to you, the folks in the U.S. We're going to resume our commercial air service. Everything is just business as usual here. We'll see what's going to happen. The bottom line here is the Trump administration way underestimated how the strength and the stability of the Iranian military is. Now, whether they're getting extra support from the Chinese, that kind of looks like they may be. Whether they are getting maybe some support from other countries that are in sympathy with Iran, maybe. But the bottom line is even with our naval blockade, Iran continues to put up a pretty good fight. And I honestly wonder if the Trump administration actually knows how much strength that they actually do. The other thing that has come out in the news is we are quickly depleting our military supplies and inventory. Some news sources have said that even with our short-range missiles, they're already down 50%. We're out there playing games and shooting, rockets left and right and dropping bombs left and right, and we are actually accomplishing not much. So we really got to, kind of pay attention here as to what is actually going on, and monitor the situation. And I think we're in for the long haul. And the thing of it is the American people are starting to get a little fed up with all of this with Iran. We started this mess. Trump gets upset that the European allies have not jumped in and done more. You know why they haven't? Because they didn't start this mess. We did. And that's why they're a little reluctant to, offer support. And Trump's mad at NATO, and he's mad at the European countries. And the European countries are starting to lose their oil supply. We've got commercial airliners are running out of jet fuel. And, and of course, as you heard on the news now, Trump wants to bail out Spirit Airlines, which has been in bankruptcy twice. And Trump knows a lot about bankruptcy because he's been there himself many, many times. And the reason they want to help out private airline is because the Spirit Airlines' presence in major airports is what's keeping prices down for competition among other major airlines like Delta, American, United. And so, therefore, Spirit Airlines needs to be there to keep prices down. A lot of people are upset that, this is the whole idea of how our economy works, how capitalism works, may the best person win. And if you start a business that goes under, so be it. You either move on to something else, and that's how capitalism works. So putting millions of dollars of taxpayer money into a failing airline is something that we just have to look at. Now, so as you can see with the Iran conflict and the Strait of Hormuz, trying to be where it needs to be, which is open and it's been mined, we've got problems. And the U.S. Navy out there is probably doing the best they can. I'm not knocking our U.S. military. They're under orders to do what they got to do. But I am kind of knocking how the procedures is going, with Pete Hegseth in there playing, war games, thinking he's got a computer game in front of him. And that guy, if you hear him talk at these press conferences, it's almost like he's, back in high school, rah, 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 macho man. So we'll have to see what we're going to get from these peace talks if they even occur. All right, moving on to other news that's going on. I just have, I can't talk anymore about this Iranian conflict. It just goes on and on and on, and no end in sight. So the Department of Justice dropped its criminal investigation of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. The move by United States Attorney Jeanine Pirro, another great Fox News host, just like Pete Hegseth, removes a major hurdle to President Donald Trump's nomination of Kevin Warsh to replace Powell. Now, Senator Thom Tillis, a North Carolina Republican, had put an effective hold on the Senate confirming Warsh unless the criminal investigation of Powell was dropped. Pirro said the Fed's Inspector General will investigate cost overruns of the central bank's multi-billion-dollar renovation of its headquarters in Washington, D.C. The Inspector General launched that probe, of course, now back in July. So let's just talk a little bit about this. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The charges are dropped against Jerome Powell. So they can get Warsh in there. And Pirro, again, you got another Fox News host. Half the Trump administration is made up of news personalities and people in the entertainment industry, and, of course, some of his multi-billion-dollar cronies. This is why this administration is slowly crumbling. That's why the MAGA movement is slowly, they're now having infighting. This is why Trump's ratings as president and his performance ratings are now the lowest of almost any U.S. president in history, in the 30s. His popularity and his performance ratings are now even lower than even his predecessor. Yeah, that Democratic president he continues to hate all the time. Yeah, well, Trump is now even below him, so he can't complain about his predecessor anymore because he is in the tank. Even Fox News polls are showing that his ratings are now in the 30s. Most of it is because of the economy and, of course, what's going on overseas. So, but Jerome Powell, they complained about his work on fixing the Department of Treasury and all that. It was approved by Congress, way back about 5 years ago. And here's Trump spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars actually, on his ballroom, and he wants to build this golden arch, and so he has no room to complain either. So it's just, I honestly wonder where the hell he's coming from. But it's funny that this all of a sudden got dropped in the investigation. They had nothing on Jerome Powell in the first place. They've tried this little trick before, and they came up with nothing. So, yeah, it's dropped. Now maybe we can get his little buddy confirmed. And as you are fully aware of, Donald Trump is all over the place on far as building things and wanting to construct things. And I've got some more news on that. So another project that he is currently undertaking at the expense of the U.S. taxpayers, but we'll get to that in just a minute. What we do need to talk about that was also kind of odd here is this guy here, Robert Kennedy. Yeah. I don't know if you've been following this in the news, but he was in the hot seat again with federal lawmakers. He was all over the place as far as his theories, his conspiracy theories on vaccinations, with the measles vaccinations, with the discounts on drugs that have been undertaken by the Trump administration, and how Donald Trump calculates drug discounts for favored nations. You think I'm making this crap up? Watch this clip, please.
And slashed healthcare for millions of families. The president pitched his Trump RX website as the answer for Americans who are worried about healthcare costs. He claims that Trump RX has reduced prices by as much as 600%. 600%, which I think means companies should be paying you to take their drugs. But let's do some real math here. Take one drug, Protonix, a 30-day supply of this heartburn medication, costs $200 on Trump RX. But there is an identical generic version of this pill called pantoprazole. Secretary Kennedy, do you know how much it costs for a 30-day supply of that drug at Costco?
But I would say this, Senator.
Do you know what it costs?
President Trump has a different way of calculating. If there's two ways of calculating percentage. If you have a $600 drug and you reduce it to 10, that's a 600% reduction.
But you know I only have 5 minutes. Do you know what the drug costs at Costco?
I do not.
Yeah. I love Trump's formula for discounting drugs at 600%, if you can believe that. If you actually look at how Trump is supposedly be discounting this stuff, it comes out to about 92, 93%, not 600%. I don't understand Donald Trump's mathematics, and I think Kennedy, they're trying to explain it. He doesn't understand either how that it works, but he sure the hell did his best. Bottom line is you now are giving where the military personnel have an option. They don't have to do vaccinations if they don't want to, yet they go overseas and fight in some of these areas, third world countries where infections and diseases run rampant, and he tells the military, you don't need to get any shots. It's fine. Go over there and do what you want to do. It's up to you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are putting our people at risk here. The measles outbreak is real. The statistics are real. And then he tells, you don't need to get measles vaccinations. And you tell people that you don't need to get shots. And you got these parents who are MAGA people like, great, I've got my choice. I ain't going to give my kids anything. It's my choice. They don't need any shots. Let them go to school and get sick. I don't give a shit. It's insane. These things were put into place for a reason, to protect our kids, and now you got parents who, because of these new laws and loopholes and choice and things, they say, oh, fine, I'm not going to get them then, and their kids get sick and they get measles and they turn around, what the hell's going on? Why is my kid sick? Again, critical thinking skills, folks. Where the hell is your brain? So think about that. All right. So we need to protect our kids. And this, again, another guy on the cabinet in Trump administration that has no clue about anything, with no medical training, and he's sitting in the position that he's in, and you can hear him talk and hear him speak, and you're like, holy God. So, all right. And other news, and this is going to kind of tie back into Iran. I swore I wasn't going to have to talk about Iran anymore, but unfortunately I got to. So Navy Secretary John Phelan, he's been fired by Pete Hegseth, and he'll be leaving the Trump administration effective immediately. The Pentagon announced just this past Wednesday, marking the latest departure of a top defense official this year. And, of course, you got the little marketing speech on behalf of the Secretary of War and Deputy Secretary of War. We are grateful for Secretary Phelan and for his service to the Department of the United States. Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said in a statement, which he posted on X, which is all bullshit. They don't care. He fired him because the guy had a right to stand up to Pete Hegseth and argue with him about some of the procedures that were going on. And I get so sick and tired of these little statements that they put out. They thank people for their service and all that after they behind the scenes. They fired him, yelled at him, and called him a worthless POS. And because he had this, the gall to stand up to, and the gonads to stand up to Pete Hegseth. You don't piss off Pete Hegseth because he acts like a sixth grader, and you get him mad, he's going to fire you. So there you go. But the new acting Navy Secretary will be Undersecretary Hunkeo. The abrupt firing by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth came after mounting tensions between him and Hegseth. And, of course, our great news organizations that are out there, they always can scour for behind the scenes of what's really going on. So the number 2 guy, Steven Feinberg, he, according to multiple officials and others familiar with the relationship, said there was a lot of anger going on. There were a number of issues between the men, but the speed and approach Phelan was taking when it came to shipbuilding, a challenge in which President Trump has taken a personal interest in, appears to have been the main reason for the firing. Multiple people said they clashed not only on shipbuilding, but also on the Golden Fleet, Trump's signature naval initiative, as well as the deployment of ships around the world. Feinberg said they wrestled with some decision-making on shipbuilding away from Phelan, since he wasn't moving fast enough, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. So let's do a little bit of deep dive into that. This all goes back to why we are in Iran in the first place. Trump and his family love all of this stuff going on. Why? Because all of Trump's family, and including his multi-billion-dollar cronies, all have military contracts. That's one thing Trump did when he got in office. They love war. They love to build up the military. They love to build up the Department of War, because all the connections with his family and a lot of his rich cronies have military contracts, and the more crap they can build, the richer that his family and his cronies get. It's plain and simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't see that, I feel sorry for you. And there is zillions and zillions of facts out there to prove that I am correct. It's plain and simple. The same reason that we went into Venezuela, the same reason that we were going in Iran. The Trump family wants the oil, and they are in bed with Israel as well as to get that oil. They want control. And next is Cuba. Now, Cuba doesn't have any oil, but we've already got them economically sanctioned off to where they are suffering. And they did that one tanker with fuel through. Trump wants Cuba because it makes him feel good that he can take it away from Russia. And if he can take that away from Russia, that's just another feather in his hat. And the reason he wants Greenland and everything else, it's the minerals. So this whole thing is a political game because it means lots of billions of dollars for the Trump family and everybody else. So this is why, unfortunately, you got somebody like this poor guy that got canned. Phelan was a very, very good man in his position, and they canned his butt. So, it breaks my heart that our country has gotten to this point to where it's all about money and nothing else. Everybody wants to get rich at the sacrifice of innocent, people, women, children, going after dropping bombs and all that. The more that we can spend on that, the richer other people get. And this guy here is the same thing. Shipbuilding. We'll take it at a slower pace. Pete Hague said, no, Trump wants more and more ships out there. Get your people ordering more ships so our contractors can make more money. I'm here to do the bidding of Donald Trump, and that's what you're going to do. He says, no, we'll take it at a slow pace. All right, the hell with you. You're fired. So I'll find somebody that will do it. So this is what we're coming into, which brings me on to the other part of the news. And I was talking earlier about the internal falling apart of Trump's cabinet. So Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer is resigning from the Trump administration. The White House said Deputy Labor Secretary Keith Soderling will take over the department in an acting capacity. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung wrote. Chavez-Remer's resignation follows the departures of other top officials in President Donald Trump's cabinet, including Homeland Secretary Kristen Noem and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Chavez-Remer was reportedly facing an internal investigation into allegations that she used agency resources for personal trips and that she was having an affair with a member of her security team. Surprise, surprise, surprise. And you know who else next is going to probably be on this is our FBI director that we got in there too, Patel. He's doing the same exact crap, using our government resources for little trips around the world to have fun, get drunk, and party with his girlfriend. All right? So this woman here, she got caught. And there has already been media out there about Patel and his heavy drinking. Of course, he wants to sue Atlantic Magazine because he said that's a bunch of bull ass. That's a lie. I don't do that. The Atlantic says we stand by our story. We've got the facts. We've got the resources. We've got the photographs. What are you talking about? So, I think Patel actually is going to be the next on the chopping block, and I do. All of these cabinet people that Trump has had in there they're all out there for their own, ego and in a government position, just like a lot of our congressmen and our senators. Once they get the power and once they get the graft and once they can get into insider trading, that's another thing that's been coming up is there's been a lot of people who have been doing insider trading on the stock markets because they all got their ear to what Trump is doing. They know in advance it's happening. It's illegal as hell, but there's not going to be one damn thing done about it. Is because Trump controls the Department of Justice and everything else. So you've got all these people that are now doing insider trading and getting rich off the war effort because they know the moves days before it's publicly announced. And you can't tell me that's not happening. It's been proven in the media that it's going on. And again, on the Democratic side of Congress, they can't do anything because they're in the minority. But you wait till the midterms happen and things change. This shit's all going to stop. All right. It's going to hit the fan. You can bet my bottom dollar. So, when you get all these people dropping like flies, like I said, I think Patel's going to be next, and we'll have to see if that's going to happen because he's also causing a huge embarrassment to Donald Trump. That's the other thing, with Donald Trump. You don't embarrass him. If you do, you are gone. So as far as these people that, are getting killed at a local level, here in the state of Florida, this woman here, of course, she finally resigned from Congress because the fact of the matter is that she got caught with her hands in the cookie jar too. McCormick here, she resigned because she was spending a lot of that COVID money illegally. And the ethics committee got her, and so before they actually removed her from office, she resigned, and she said it was a witch hunt, as they all do. When they get caught, it's all a witch hunt. And she's still facing a criminal indictment here in the state of Florida for tapping the cookie jar in the tune of $5 million for messing with COVID money like that. So. I honestly think that she's, they got so much evidence against her, she's going to go down. Now, another gentleman here in the state of Florida that's also under investigation by the Ethics Committee is Corey Mills. He said he will not resign. Corey Mills, I think, possibly could survive. And I'll tell you why, is because if they get rid of that guy, the House Republicans are in super razor thin margin. 1 or 2 votes. And this guy could probably go out and do whatever the hell he wants. And he'll get a pass. I could be wrong. They possibly could remove him, but I don't foresee it happening. I don't. So they don't care about Sheila because she's a Democrat, so that's why they went after her. Even though the board is supposed to be bipartisan in the committee, Sheila was a sacrificial lamb because she's a Democrat. But Corey Mills, who's caught having an affair and doing some other things too, he's cool because he's a Republican. We'll have to wait and see what happens with him. But again, you've got Trump's cabinet falling apart and people resigning, getting caught, and then you've got here in Florida the same damn things going on. So on and on and on and on and on. Now, as I start to winding up this podcast, let's get into the other thing. I was talking earlier in this podcast about Trump's, little projects. You've got the ballroom. You've got his $1 billion arch that he wants to build in celebration of, he said the country is 250th birthday. That's all BS. It's basically he wants to leave his name and his legend all over the place. And because, his legacy is very important to him, even though his ratings are down the tube. But let's talk about the Lincoln Memorial, all right? Let's just talk about that. So what's going on there is the reflecting pool. Now, he wants to repaint the bottom of the reflecting pool. In fact, he wants to. He's already gone ahead and started it. So he wants it more blue. So they've drained the swamp. Just kidding. Drained the pool and started repainting it. And so the reflecting pool will look more blue. And they're putting a new surface onto the bottom of the pool. Atop it's stone flooring. The swimming pool style surface made out of the latest and greatest filament, so says Donald Trump, will be colored American flag blue. The pool was built clear back in the 1920s, a reflecting pool and its surrounding areas. Of course, has gone through one renovation back in 2012. And, of course, that was paid for by a $34 million Obama-era stimulus funding. And the National Park Service has carried out some renovations since then. And the pool is also periodically drained to scrub out the algae, garbage, goose droppings, and other debris. But during an Oval Office event on drug prices, Donald Trump said he was disturbed by the terrible condition of the pool, a historic site that featured heavily in Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1963 March on Washington. And there's been, of course, other major events at the Lincoln Memorial. And he estimated that renovating the pool will take about a week and cost about $1.5 million. And, of course, the contractors, as you see in this photograph, are already started working on it, putting down that industrial-grade blue surface. And he thinks that's going to be absolutely beautiful and work that's needed to be well done. Now, I don't have a huge complaint about that. The pool, as you've just seen what I read, and what I read there, it has gone through, renovations throughout decades, and it does need it occasionally. So painting the bottom blue so it stands out more and when the water gets put back in, okay. We'll give them a one-off on that because it needs to be taken care of, and it's a major tourist attraction. So, I'm not condoning the arch in this ballroom, but okay. So he's redoing the surface of the reflective pool. Needs to be done. All right. So, and wrapping up, you've heard about Iran. We don't know, in summary, whether the Iranians are going to meet with the U.S. officials. We'll I'll find out more about that probably on Monday in our podcast. I'll report on it. We've had the labor secretary resign due to her getting caught with her affair and misusing funds and using government resources for her own personal gain. Exactly what Kash Patel does. He flies around with his girlfriend to parties and things and does the same thing. I think he's going to be next to go. Because the guy's just got that record, he's drinking too much. I think, our Secretary of State, he possibly could be getting into trouble. He makes these beautiful statements about how well the war is going on. And, yet nothing's getting accomplished. And of course, Trump, supports whatever he's doing, and Trump wants to keep the war dragging out because it's profitable to him and his family and to his people that have government contracting. That's why he wants to go before Congress and get billions and billions of dollars more. But the bottom line is, I think the American people will have the final say on this. There is just 0 to maybe 1% support for what's going on in Iran, because it isn't something that they came to us at. We started this thing, and now we're losing total respect from our European allies, and they are suffering because of it. And we have so far done nothing except, toss, cannon fire back and forth a little bit and gunfire. And something's got to break here, ladies and gentlemen, and we got to put an end to this. And when you've got a president right now, he's about a year and a half into his second term, and his approval rating is in the low 30s now. That's signaling that the people here in the U.S. are going, enough is enough. That's my podcast for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to your comments. Until next week, you try to have a good week. Take care.